Well, it's very nice to be here, and I feel very honored. I also feel humbled by the examples of the two marvelous women who came before me. I haven't done anything like that. They've done great things. I did try to help writers very specifically, financially once. And in my horror connections, I was a trustee of the Horror Writers of America, one of the worst run, least efficient, most rancorous, self-loathing institutions to be found in this country. I was on the hardship committee. And man, there was a lot of hardship. Surprisingly, I don't know how this happened, but we had a lot of money. And even though the individual members had no money at all, the institution, I don't know. The former president was really good. That helped. But anyhow, we doled money out as we saw fit, and that was the reason I became a trustee there. It's the only time in my life I ever had an experience comparable to some of our other friends here. And it was very gratifying indeed. What Elliot wished to thank me for, or to recognize, was that I sit at my desk every now and I write checks. This is a more passive involvement, though I am on the board of a lot of these organizations that I appreciate and support. And I just wanted to go through a few of them to tell you why, really. Susan mentioned Marymount College. One wouldn't think of it as a hotbed of writing in America or New York, but it's run, the writing division is run by this extraordinary character named Louis Burke Frumkes. Louis Burke Frumkes has a hypnotic power. You wouldn't think it to look at him, really, but he's very, very seductive. He's completely charming. I met him because he invited me once when I was publishing a book to be on his radio program, of which I'd never heard. It's broadcast from the English department, I think, at Marymount. So you go to Marymount, you go by the desk, you show your ID. Some kid comes and takes you up. You pass by all these stunning girls who are Louis's assistants, and then you're ushered back to this little desk, and here's this enormous guy with a big smile and sort of floppy hair. And he just charms the crap out of you. I substituted that for another word. And you have this wonderful time, and after that, for some reason, you'll do anything he says. So I went to a fundraiser, a marvelous dinner, something like this. Susan has gone to endless numbers of these things. And on the way home, I took a card, or I was given a card, and the card invited me to give money back. So I got home that night, I looked at it, I thought, gee, that was a nice evening, I support that. So I filled in my credit card stuff, and the next day I put it in the mail. And 2 days after that, Elliot Burke Frumkes called me up and he said, the writers never give money. Wow, good for me. And then after that I was on panels, and I was giving speeches, and I was choosing awards. Anyhow, that's Marymount, which is an extremely lively scene. Many, many people here have been involved in it and have experienced exactly the seduction that I'm talking about, and I presume have the same pleasure in it that I did. I liked the St. Mark's Poetry Project because they have done extraordinary work for a long, long time. When my wife and I lived in England for a long time, and at that time and before that, I became very interested in a certain kind of poetry that was cooked up in New York. We had French antecedents. It had certain very refined American parents, like Wallace Stevens, but it was a product of New York. John Ashbery, Frank O'Hara, Kenneth Koch, and they spawned a second generation. Ron Padgett, Ted Berrigan, Larry Fagan, and Ann Waldman, lots and lots of writers who were really lively, really enjoyable, tremendous fun. Joe Brainerd was their pet artist, and a brilliant writer himself. So these were the people who began the Poetry Project, and as far as I was concerned, they were on the side of the angels. They did a beautiful journal called Angel Hair, which I never had the nerve to submit poems to when I was in my early 20s. But I did submit poems to their secondary journal called The World, which is still rolling along. I think we're at the World 55 or something. My first publication was in the World number 14. And I still have this, I assure you. Somewhere in my archive, this journal exists. And one of the greatest moments in my life came when I came home that day. I was an English teacher at a prep school. And I opened my mailbox, and there was this copy, which was my payment. And I thought, well, that was nice. Why did they send that to me? And I looked at it, and I saw my name in the table of contents. And then I was like Little Pearl in the Hawthorne novel. I levitated. I levitated around. I had no idea where I was going. I was just calmly breathing in the airs of heaven, and something like a total serenity. I had done it. I had done what I always wanted all my life to do. I had finally gotten published somewhere. So, of course, also, that's not the only reason I give them money. Though I assure you, it is one of the reasons. They have continued doing really, really noble work, and now Ted Berrigan's son, Anselm, ran it for a long time, and now I think there's another one. Anyhow, they have a great reading series. I got involved in conjunctions because I was introduced to Bradford Morrow, a brilliant man. And conjunctions, I understood right away, was one of the greatest literary journals ever to appear in America. It was visionary. I mean, it was conducted under the light of a specific vision. It had its own aesthetic. The aesthetic was very, very high-minded. And it had a sort of purity. I was sold. And I gave money instantly. And I became friends with Brad. Brad liked my work, it turned out. And later, I contributed, I guest edited one issue. Is there water here somewhere? No. That'd be great, thank you. Maybe I'm going over my time. Anyhow, I've been very happy to support conjunctions. For the same reason, I wanted to support Fence, which was more street level than conjunction. Applause for Fence, great. Fence is a knockout. Fence was struggling along, still is a little bit, but Rebecca Wolf, its founder and editor, has found a brilliant home for it through Lynn Tillman's help. It's been installed at Albany, at the New York University in Albany. And it'll be perfectly at home there. It is a comprehensive journal. The point is they don't exclude you because you're not avant-garde. You just have to be good enough to get in. That's a breathtaking notion, I think. I'm all for it. So I like Larry Fagan. I named him before. He's the genius behind all sorts of lively little poetry efforts like Green Zone, Adventures in Poetry. There's one other, I can't remember what it is. I've also supported MFA programs and given fellowships because I think they're too expensive. These kids need help, you know, and I can't help them all. But in individual cases, I can. I mentioned Fence before, and I want to finish by alluding directly to a couple of things that were on the issue of Fence about 2 issues back. It was a symposium about fiction, and very surprising things were said, things that you only find in places like Fence. Frederick Tootin, who was a really, really good experimental novelist, said, "Think of poetry, think of incandescence and radiance. Embrace writers with integrity. Visit the graves of unhonored writers. Ditto their places of birth and last residence. Leave them flowers and books and a thank you note, handwritten." This is excellent advice. Laura Miller said something, that's great. I often think it'd be nice to go to writers' graves and just leave something. Laura Miller spoke up for an element in fiction writing that is often disparaged, that is the essential, the central act for many of us of storytelling. She called it plot making, and she said, it does not help that storytelling is subtly stigmatized as pandering to the public's crass demand for entertainment, instead of celebrated for what it is, an ancient, universal, and honorable way of delighting other human beings. We are here, really, I think, we are here to celebrate ourselves, this ancient, honorable act of delighting other human beings by telling them stories. Thank you.